Hey, this is Dave. I'm here with Krista today. Say hi, Krista.
Hey.
This is my podcast, Inspiring Stories of Recovery. Today, we're going to talk to Krista about her recovery, her relapse, if she had relapse, the whole story. We're going to get the whole MO on her today. We ask that you follow us on social media, Inspire Stories of Recovery. Send us a like, share this podcast. This is a great one. I'm really excited today. Hi, Krista.
Hi.
Okay, let's start out here. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am 38 years old. I'm kind of a new mom. I have a 5 and a 3-year-old. I'm married. We own a pressure washing business. We live in South Carolina. I am in long-term recovery.
Yay.
By the grace of God, I will celebrate 10 years of sobriety in August.
Congratulations.
I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic. I grew up in the church. I grew up in a great family. My parents are still married. I had a wonderful childhood, but somewhere in the teens, I got lost and I found myself at the bottom of a bottle almost every day. And I wasn't just a party girl. I am from a resort island, Hilton Head Island, South Carolina, but I just never knew when to stop. Everyone would go home and I'd continue drinking, and I was on the violent side. Alcohol made me angry. I physically hurt people. I emotionally hurt people. And I didn't even realize what I was doing. I would get arrested, get back out, and go back to the life because recovery was never talked about in my area. It's hush hush because it's such a touristy. That's what we think why there's no recovery in our area, because it's so touristy. There's a lot of money that comes here and they don't want the stigma of rehabs and recovery and all that. But if you think about it, that's the answer to the problem we're having. So I ended up getting arrested 10 years ago for hurting the man I love really, really bad. And my charge was really hot, like a big charge. It held 20 years. I woke up in jail covered in blood. I got arrested at the ER. It was I don't want to get too graphic, but it was bad. And my parents had it. It was about my 10th arrest. And they were like, "You're sitting in there. We're not going to talk to you. You got to do something about this." And my cellmate ended up taking someone's life in a felony DUI. So she had already been in there a year because she didn't want to bond out. She knew she was going to have to serve time. So she decided to just stay in there and get some time under her belt and just, not bond out and go back to regular life and then have to go back and serve her sentence. So she sat in there, and she's the one who took me to AA in jail. I said it.
Let me ask you a question. Let's see if I got this. So you start out church going family, right? Correct me where I'm wrong here. Church going family, normal childhood.
Yep.
As normal as anybody could be.
I'm the oldest of 5 kids.
You're the oldest of 5 kids. You start using. Tell me about that.
It was 14. I had my first drink, and now that I'm thinking about it, that's when my youngest brother was born. So it's like my mom had all these kids, and I'm 14, and I'm like, ooh. So alcohol. I was at a Christian school too when I had my first drink.
So tell me about how you felt when you had your first drink.
I fit in. I am with everyone else. It was always like glorified, like, ooh, let's drink. And we were the good Christian girls, and they're drinking. I'm like, ooh. And we have a big PGA golf tournament that comes to our town every year, the Heritage. It's the week after the Masters. And that's like the biggest week of the year besides 4th of July, because it's a 12-mile island and it's beaches. So like, this is a great place to come and visit. And that's where I had my first drink, at the Heritage. They snuck us out, and we had mini bottles at the time. So it was mini bottles, and I fit in, and I felt like I was in the crowd. And then I went to public school.
So tell me about that. So what happens is, what happens is it starts to progress, right? You take that one drink one day, it's all fun and game. Like for me too, it's all fun and games in the beginning. I feel good. Wow, look at me now. So tell me about this. So it plays out. Tell me about what happens when you get to the point where you feel different now that there's a problem. Take me to that day.
It wasn't me that said I had a problem. It
Right.
was the police, the arrest, the like, even after probably my seventh arrest. I mean, my first time going to jail, I was a senior in high school for minor in possession of alcohol. I got out of jail and went to high school the next day. And and all my friends were getting like arrested too. So it wasn't like a big thing, but a lot of my friends didn't have this like loving family like I did,
Yes.
and my family was telling me I had a problem. Like, no, I didn't. I don't. I'm just like everybody else.
So tell me this. So you don't realize the whole time that you have a problem. You're using, it's out of hand, you're going to jail, you're getting arrested. Just like the old saying goes, we're the last to know. So
Yeah.
so you don't realize you have a problem. Take me to the last day you're using.
I actually was asked to go to a recovery meeting with a friend of mine, and it was court ordered. And I had never been to one. And she convinced me to go by giving me a Xanax bar. Those were really my favorite thing, but I couldn't take one without drinking. It was like I had to intensify it because my friends did that. And that was like in my head, I had this like, I had to do it that way. And that's where the blackouts would start. And I loved the feeling. And I would never remember I was doing everything I never ever did. Like no one ever on the bottle of a Xanax bottle doesn't tell you you're going to steal and you're going to lie and you're going to do all these
Right.
things. And so I went and I took the Xanax and drank and went in the meeting and saw an ex-boyfriend of mine, and I was like, no, I'll wait in the car for you. So I go in the car, and I've never been a cheater or a thief, but when I would take these, it would make me like talk to other men while I was in a relationship, or like all the things I didn't ever do. And I was talking to an ex-boyfriend, and he was telling me about his new girlfriend, and I was trying to like say, I was like upset about it, but I was in a relationship. So I'm talking to him. We go home. The girl drops me off and we go home. And my boyfriend at the time's mowing the lawn, and I'm on my phone talking to this guy, my ex-boyfriend. And my new boyfriend catches me and he flips. Oh, and he got a Xanax bar too, but he was okay, like doing his thing. And he grabs my phone, breaks it. And I don't really remember much, but I saw red. I flipped out. I took a golf club, broke it over my knee, and I stabbed him in the wrist and hit a main artery and blood everywhere. Then he took a Corona bottle and stabbed me. It was like a full blown like craziness. I was held down at gunpoint at one point. Like I don't remember any of this. And then this is 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I run next door to my neighbor because I didn't have a phone, call 911. There's blood everywhere. My arms open. And she calls 911. She's got 3 small girls at her house. Like, I can't believe I probably traumatized this poor little family. She calls 911. They show up. My boyfriend takes off. He's like hidden in the backyard because he thinks he's going to jail. The guy always thinks they're going to jail. And little did I know it was going to be me. But I get in the ambulance, go to the ER. They say they're going to have to maybe even life flight him because the injury's so bad. So we end up in the ER together, but down the hall, and a cop is sitting with me like the whole time. And I'm usually one to like sing like a bird to these cops, but I thought I was doing my man right. I wasn't saying anything. And I'm doing my off the wall talking because I was so intoxicated. And I get stitched up. I somehow managed to get a prescription for some pain pill from the doctor for teeth pain. Like I squeezed that out. I didn't know I was like drug seeking, but I was. And I go to get up and they handcuff me. And they walk me past where his name was Brian, my boyfriend at the time. And they walk me past him and he wasn't mad. He was like, I love you. I was just like, okay. And then I try to run in the parking lot with my cuffs on, whole thing. And where I lived, it was an hour drive to jail. So I had to ride in the back of the cop car for an hour all the way to the county jail. And I woke up the next day and my bond was clears. criminal domestic violence at a high and aggravated nature. And I had no idea. Like my parents, my bonds were always like $1,000 or whatever. I'm like, my parents are not going to help me. They were so upset. Nobody talked to me. I was a crybaby. So my social media is social sober Barbie. And that's where sober Barbie came into play because they called me Barbie jail because I was the
See why?
blood. And I was either bubbly or I was crying. I was the crybaby because every time I talked on the phone, I was crying. And that was a wake up call, sitting there going, oh my gosh. Like,
Is
and
that
I've
the
never
end?
had to dress out in jail. I was always in the orange. So they were classifying me like it was real. This was
Is
real.
that the end? Is that the day that you
That was my
realize
last drink.
that
And
was
it
your
was a Mike Hard lemonade.
Yes. Well, we're going to also let people out there know this, which I'm sure you agree with, which is you don't have to hit a bottom that hard. Maybe your bottom's worse. Maybe your bottom is just your parents found out. It doesn't really matter. Everybody has their own bottom. This is
Absolutely.
what you. So tell me, so you're in jail, high bond, the gig is up in your mind. So how do you go about getting recovery?
I thought rehab was like a cult. Like,
Right.
I didn't know anybody that had been to rehab. Nobody talked. If they did, nobody talked about it.
Right.
But it's weird because our old family attorney used to tell my mom she needs rehab. That's the only man that's ever said that. I thought you had to be like the shakes, like, like complete withdrawal to go to rehab. Because I never had a true, like, I'm sure I felt the withdrawals, but I didn't know how to pinpoint them and stuff, because I was putting something in my body every day. So in the first 2 weeks of jail, I know my body was detoxing, but I didn't know it. I just felt different and it was odd.
So do they send you to jail from rehab? Is that how it works?
So
I mean, rehab to jail.
my mom eventually talked to me after a week of me being in there, and she goes, Krista, listen, you have a problem. If you decide to go get help, we will help you, but you can't come back here. We're not going to help you if you come back home. So every time I went to jail, I'd call my grandma because she lived in the town of the jail, because we're like 3 towns in 1 county. So I wasn't living in the town my jail was in, but my grandma did. So I always called her, and I'm her oldest grandkid, and she would always answer and not hate me, or, she'd be compassionate for me. And ironically, her next door neighbor and their best friends was the head of the public defender's office. And she convinced him to come visit me. And he was the one that told me, listen, if you pick treatment, you can get your life back if you go to treatment. So I was just like, okay. And my cellmate was just very kind and like, she was helping me decide that. And I remember sitting in my cell ripping that prescription up. When I ripped that prescription, I squeezed out of the doctor. That's when I knew, okay, that life's done. That life's done. So my parents, Google didn't help a lot. This was 10 years ago. My mom said she wishes she had all the notebooks and the research that she had to go through to find a place for me to go. And it's not free. Rehab's not free. So that was another thing. I was going to have to sell my brand new car and all this. And so she found a great recovery program 3 hours away. And then the day she goes, you have to sit in there for 30 days though. She wanted me to get like a real detox. She wanted me to sit in jail for 30 days before they bonded me out and took me to treatment. So I sat in there for 30 days and they did their work. They were making calls, and she found me a recovery program. And then the day before I was supposed to bond out, they said, she can't come here. Her ex-boyfriend's here and it's a conflict of interest. So my heart was devastated. I was like, am I even going to get out? And they recommended another program, and I ended up going there, and it's 3 hours away as well, a different direction from where I live. And she bonded me out. I got out, got my Big Mac and my Coke. That was my go-to after jail. It took me to Walmart where I met the bondsman, and I signed my life away and got a little, because they didn't bring me any clothes from my former life. Like I lost a lot of weight. So sorry, my son just popped in. I told him not to come in here. But took me to Walmart. I bought some like random clothes just to get me to where I was going. My mom drove me the 3 hours away. It was such an emotional drive. We didn't know what to expect. We pull up, and I didn't know till like recently, but I was like one of the first like 50 residents in this program. They've now 10 years this rehab's been open, which is amazing, and they've done amazing things. But it was in like it looked like a trap house, like my old life where I would go hang out. Like it was a rundown little house, but I was greeted with so much compassion, and these girls I didn't know. I remember I finally took my long shower, because in jail you don't get long showers. And I was in there and they knocked and they're like, "Do you want to go get ice cream?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And it was just a truly amazing experience. I think I had the best time of my life in rehab, tell you the truth. It
Let
was a
me
4-month program.
ask you before you get into that. When I do these interviews, and I like we talked about before, I've been around a long time. You really see how that people call it God, other people call it higher power. Some people don't believe it. Also, I'm not. But you see how, like, when I'm listening to your story, I see how everything fell into place the way it was supposed to. Maybe you go to that other rehab where your boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, or boyfriend is at the time, and that doesn't work for you. Like, you were exactly where you need to be. So I always like
Absolutely.
people out there that when you decide to make the right decision, things will fall into place. I've seen it a million times, and I could tell you. Do you want to shout out that rehab that you were in? If you'd like to shout it out,
The Oaks in Greenwood, South Carolina. The
okay.
Oaks.
10 years
Amazing.
here, top graduate. Okay, so tell me. So you stay there 4 months or 3 months?
It was a 4-month program. Well, they had a 1 month or a 4-month, and the 1 month was more money.
Right.
A lot of people that did that, if you finished the 30 days, you got a lot of privileges back, your phone and all that. So I think that's maybe why people paid more. I don't know.
You
You
did the
could
4 months.
evaluate it.
You
So
did
I
the
did the
four.
4 months. I got a job after 3 weeks in there. And I've been in food and beverage my whole life. I'm a bartender. So that
Yeah.
played a whole role in my drinking as well. So my goal was, I'm not going to get in food and beverage. This is my chance to work with animals. I've always wanted to work with animals. No one would hire me because I didn't have any experience. So here I go, end up at a restaurant again. And I was like the oddball because I was there for rehab. No one else. They were all regular people. And if you know what happens in the food and beverage world. Like there's a lot
Right.
of shady stuff that
Right.
gets
Right.
passed around the kitchen,
Right.
And so I was in a very vulnerable. I was scared, but I started to be a little more open and like, yeah, I'm here for rehab, and they were cool, and I was able to be around alcohol and not have it.
Yeah.
It was a different way of it, and I even had to jump behind the bar, and I was okay.
Well,
And
let me ask you this. But I didn't. I mean, ADHD is a big thing for me. Uh, welcome, right? So besides the work challenge, a lot of times when people get sober in the beginning, there's other challenges they have to deal with. Did you still have to deal with the court situation, with the law situation? Because people don't understand. You don't get sober and then all of a sudden everything the first day works itself out. Tell people about in early recovery, what kind of challenges you had to work through.
so I did stay for the whole 4 months, and I stayed for an extra month in the transition house to help others. So I came back home after 6 months of being completely sober, because that 30 days in jail, I was sober.
Okay.
So that added 6 months, and I go back home. And the coolest part is because in rehab, we were allowed to go on the computers in the library and find jobs, because you didn't have a car. You didn't, you had to kind of do as they say. You didn't have a phone. And I was secretly writing back home. I was looking at jobs to line something up for when I came home. And I found this restaurant, and the owner was sober,
Wow.
ready to
Yeah.
hire me when
Now,
I came home.
everything working out the way it's supposed to work out, right?
Unbelievable.
Right.
So he taught me how to not drink behind the bar, and taught me how it was a craft. And I learned how to craft it was a very like farm to table restaurant. So it was very fresh ingredients. And I learned how to juice stuff and like make things. And he taught me how to live normal life, but sober in a way. I don't know. I did face a lot of challenges too, because the man I was with was constantly relapsing.
And how did you
And
deal with that?
he was
Early recovery, it
like,
must be tough. It must have been tough because you're in early recovery, right?
yeah, I was actually about to finish my program. And that's when he decided he needed treatment. And I didn't even know he had a problem.
Right,
I'm like, what? You need rehab too?
right.
So he went all the way to Arizona. And I came home and he was doing his thing and he ended up relapsing there. Came back home, we were going to meetings together and all types of stuff, working on recovery. But I'm very, I don't know the word, but like vulnerable kind. Well, like I'm gullible. Like I believed you. You tell me, and I'm like, okay, yeah, you're sober.
Let, let,
No,
let me ask
no,
you this. There's things in the 12-step programs that talk about no relationships for a year. And I'm not going to ask you, but do you feel like it might have been harder for you because you're dealing with not just your disease, but another disease?
it's funny you say that because in rehab they kept telling me you're just trying to hang on to your old life by staying in a relationship with him.
And
You're
what did
trying
you
to like
think about that?
hang on to it.
Was there any truth to it?
No, I don't know. I love this man. So this man ended up passing away in
I'm sorry.
2017. He was sober and he
Wow.
fell off a roof at work.
Wow, I'm sorry.
And I would definitely have been with him today if he would have lit. Like there was something there. And he had already been to rehab before. So I didn't really we were only together a few months when all this went down. So I don't know. I felt something like we were connected. I felt.
How long were you sober when he passed? And I'm sorry for your loss.
2 years.
Can you tell me about that? Take me to that.
So he had relapsed a couple of times and local foundations were helping send him places. And at one point I had it. I
And what?
had
Yeah.
it. He was lying, their money missing. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't even know what some of these drugs were he was on. Like I was oblivious to it. And I was just a little alcoholic that liked my Xanax. I didn't know that hardcore stuff, that hardcore life, like IV drug use and all that. And he ended up going, like, I sent him off to rehab a couple times. And I finally sent him to this place in Georgia, and it was in the woods with the Mennonites help. Like, they're out there building furniture. Like, it's a really good program. And when I sent him off, I was just like over it. And I actually had a little fling with my now husband in
Okay.
that time. But then Brian got completely sober, and I was like, bye, Bob. I'm getting my family back. And he proposed to me at rehab and he came home, he's sober, doing the thing. And he was a roofer and he was out. He went to work one morning and said goodbye. It was ironic because the police had come to our house because he had a warrant for an unpaid seatbelt ticket. And he had talked to the police on, I hear my dogs.
Good.
He was on the, sorry, my dogs are going crazy out there. My husband's got it. But the cops called me, or no, the cops came and I called him. I was like, the cops are here. And he even talked to them on the phone and they worked it out because he was going to pay him on payday. Like he owed money. That's really what the warrant was for. And like things were working out like, oh, okay, we don't have to worry about the police or anything. Like he's made a plan with them, goes to work. And his birthday was a week before all this happened. And it was in October, so it was around like Halloween time. And he fell at work. He fell off a third-story roof, and his boss called me. And I was bartending at work at a new restaurant, and I couldn't leave because they were so short-staffed and we were busy. And she's bleeding. Is she okay? My dog just had an emergency.
Boys.
Is she okay? Do I need to get off this? My dog's just got in a fight. Okay, he's got it right now. But anyways, you have a dog over there. I heard it. Okay, so I get a phone call from his boss and he goes, I think he broke his arm. And I'd never talked to his boss. So I was like, this is odd. And I'm like, do I need to rush to get I couldn't leave work. So I call his mom. She rushes to the emergency room. He ended up rupturing his spleen, and they put him in a. Oh. So his spleen ruptured, and they were going to emergency surgery, and his heart stopped for an hour and 15 minutes during surgery. And that's where the doctor told us the next day if he was going to live, he was going to be brain dead. So I show up at the hospital. They tell us that, and I had to hold his hand. I held his hand for 3 days while on life support, and he was in a coma. So I never really got a true goodbye. And I truly believe it was the hospital that messed up, because it was
See,
just,
it's this. You get the news, and you get the news. He passes. Do you feel like drinking?
it crossed my mind. It
What
crossed my mind.
were you? But like, I'm assuming from what you're saying and how your story's going, that you have at this point, you have a pretty good network of.
Yeah. Well, my family none of my family's in the program, but they always supported me being in like a program or like in recovery, and they didn't let me be alone. They were with me. And mind you, my mom, before she met my dad, she lost her brother and fiancé in the same car crash.
I'm sorry.
So it's like she went through that to get me through this.
Right. That's
Like
crazy.
she went through exactly what I was going through. So it was her heart and her love for God, and just knowing that they're not hurting anymore. My mama got me through it. I truly believe. But Brian's brother came, and his family was there for me. And kind of a really cool thing that came from all this is I was awarded half of his workman's comp settlement that I never even tried to get. His parents were trying to get the money, and the judge saw that we were dependent on each other. It was over $100,000. And I was told by the opposing attorney at the bar I was working at one day, he told me, he's like, you were awarded this money. And I'm like, what? And
Wow.
so he goes, I can't help you, but here's an attorney to help you hold on to that money. And then I was connected with this amazing woman, and she guided me through it. And I ended up getting that money because then I got pregnant and married, and I got that money 2 weeks before I gave birth.
That's
I had nothing, like
so.
nothing.
So, how long are you sober when you get married?
It was when did I get married? 2019.
So
So 4 years.
okay. So 4 years you're
I got
sober,
with my now husband like a year after,
and
but
Bubba.
we had a previous history, so like it was, but we about a year after Brian passed.
Now your husband now, is he sober when you get married?
I When we got married, yes. When we got together, I thought he was sober, and then I found out a few weeks in that he was not.
Okay.
And so that was another hardcore stuff. I wasn't used to it. Alcohol was I didn't know about all that crazy stuff. So that was a beast in its own.
Yeah. So tell me this. So from following you on social media, you guys are moving along, having kids, life's good. Then he relapses.
Yeah. So, well, it was during COVID when the big relapse happened, and
How
I was
long is he sober when he relapses?
how long was it?
It was a while. It
He
wasn't.
was sober my whole pregnancy. It was the day I gave birth. He relapsed because my epidural was fentanyl.
Okay.
I
Got
think that I truly believe him seeing that word and seeing me, because I felt loopy. Like the epidural had me loopy, and I didn't feel a thing giving birth. So I feel like that might have triggered it, and we had all that money.
it. Yeah. So
So
you're having a baby. You have a baby. He's using you, bring a newborn home. Your first child or your second child?
my first child, his third.
Okay. So the baby comes home. You don't know he's using yet, or you do?
I I had a feeling, but I
Okay.
didn't. I wanted to love on my baby and be a new mom and my little family. So I was in like denial about it.
So how long does it take you to finally find that out?
It was just a couple months. I'd find paraphernalia here and there. I might have drug tested him a couple times, but I was just like, and then I was frustrated and resentful. Like, why can't you understand it like me? Why can't you get recovery like me? Why can't you understand it like me? And like, what's out there on the streets right now is a whole nother beast.
So
It needed a stronger recovery.
you're trying to manage his recovery is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a perfect way of saying it.
That doesn't work.
Nope. So it's like COVID had just hit, and it was like right around, it was that like September of 2020, and COVID was like March, April. So those summer months were real tough, and I was trying to control them. I was trying to control him.
Right. And how did that work out?
I ended up selling his truck because I had to take care of us now. And he was working for my dad, who owns a construction company. So like, we didn't own our business yet. And he was like, and my money was running out, and I had to get him out of there. So I sold his truck, I drove him to rehab with the baby. Then he bounces around a couple sober living homes. It wasn't because he was relapsing. It was because the programs weren't the greatest. So he was just moving. He was in Greenville, South Carolina, hours away. And then he convinces and he's a brick mason by trade. So he had that business going on too. And he had done some brick work for this guy. And the guy, he didn't finish it. So the guy ended up, I guess that's how Bubba got home, was like, hey, can you give me a bus ticket? I'll finish your brick work.
Right.
So the guy next thing you know, he's calling me, pick me up from the bus station. And I'm like, what? So he comes home, and he ends up going to a methadone clinic, MAT. And I was truly against it, because in rehab, I watched 90-pound girls kick heroin with a Benadryl. I'm like, you can do it without any of that. I was so like stigmatized. And that ended up giving him a solid, good chunk of recovery, 4 years. It helped him find meetings and a recovery, but somewhere, his father passed a year ago. So he never really dealt with that either. And he was raised by his dad. So it was just them two. And they didn't have a great relationship in the end too. So I think he had a lot of resentment and shame and guilt and all that. And in this time, the guy got him the bus ticket to come home helped us fund a business. He's got some money. So he was like, I believe in you guys and all this. And we got our truck, our pressure washing trailer, and we were off to the races for like living a normal life. And he was rocking and rolling. And then during that time I sent him to rehab is when I made my TikTok that got me all the views and all the followers. And I just asked them, I said, please pray. I'm losing my family to addiction. Please pray for us. I had 16,000 followers in one night. No hate. Nobody made a mean comment. They were all praying for me. And I truly believe that saved his life, those prayers.
I'm sorry. I'm going to put your your social media information in each post. I also put at the bottom, if you have any centers that you are, I also put a link to 12-step fellowships online if people want to do that. So just on every clip I put out for when I do a podcast, I put in the information about how to get help. And, people want to find out more information about you. But let me ask you, so you're moving along. Now, it seems to me from doing a little research on you before we start, and I told you, not stalking, just research.
You could stalk me.
It seems to me that you were in the 12-step fellowships and now you have chosen a different direction. Is that correct? Am I right there?
Well, it's still a 12-step program.
Tell me about it.
So a year ago, I've never heard of Celebrate Recovery until recently. That's a cool thing. And I never heard of it. And, but a year ago, so a guy that came to my rehab 9 years ago that gave his testimony from my area. I thought that was cool because we were 3 hours away and he's from my town. I'm like, oh, cool. He's the one who made a post saying our church has this Christ-based recovery, faith-based recovery program coming. And I was like, and it said childcare and stuff. And I'm like, oh, sign
Yeah.
me up. Because I felt like I was searching for more in the recovery. And I just
Give me more
can
detail.
read that blue book as much as you want, but I
Yeah.
needed more.
Tell me, can you expand on that a little? I think people want to hear, like, I want people to understand that. What do you mean?
So,
What do you need more?
I mean, I wanted to help more. And there was such a stigma against the program I was in too. Like how I thought of it when I was first introduced to, like, I'm not one of those, like, and also there is the anonymous factor and all that. And I get that for people's safety and all that. But me personally, I'm not anonymous. I want to share with everyone what's working for me. And these people don't know.
Give me one thing that's different between, let's say, one of the well-known 12-step fellowships and Celebration Recovery, what you do right now.
My favorite part is that you don't have to be in recovery to be part of or do the program. You don't have to be an alcoholic or an addict to benefit from these steps. And that's what I noticed when I was going through the steps. Like, I really looked around and I'm like, why is the whole wide world not doing this?
Would be a better
We
place.
all need to clean our side of the street.
So do you find a lot of, in the 12-step fellowships, they have the family fellowships. Do you find a lot of families inside there?
Yeah, my biggest one is grief. These people who are stuck in grief, like they lose their children or their husbands or their parents, and you're just stuck in this sadness. And there's a, like, you're part of God's plan, bottom line. You're part of God's plan, and it's God's plan's not to be sad. Your story is going to help somebody. You're going through this to help the next man. There's someone else in this world that's going through what you're going through. And there's such more of in those other 12-step programs, it's you and your sponsor. These programs, you work in groups. You feed off each other. You're not alone. You're not doing it just by yourself. You're opening up. You're getting more off these other people than you would just a sponsor. I mean, you still have a sponsor, but like you work through the 12 steps in a group setting.
Okay. Well, I understand. What I like to do on this is I like people to know that there's many paths to recovery. It's not always for some people. For me personally, 12-step fellowship, I've been involved for a long time, is what I need, and I get out of it. There's different things. I like people to be able to find out that there's so many other options.
Absolutely.
We talk about, the 12-step fellowships working, and for some, and some may not. And, I just want people to
Some
see.
need a little bit of everything. Some might just need one, or bottom line, it's God. It's God.
Right. I agree.
You got to work to find that, because you can't tell someone something. Like, they got to live it for themselves. And
Yeah.
I try to tell people.
Let's go over to your social media. Tell me about, I see that you go live a lot on TikTok, and I see you have an Instagram following. Do you get a lot of people reaching out to you?
It's overwhelming. Overwhelming. I can't open all these messages, and
what are they asking you?
it's everything from the please help me messages to the just wanting to share their sobriety and their recovery, and they're proud of themselves, or it's please help my brother or my mom or something like that. It's everything from like sadness to praise to, it's wild. It's wild. I can't take it. It's too much for one person. I'm almost to the point where I don't want to hire anyone, because no one's going to like give them what I have. Like, I want to be personable with it. So I try to do it from a larger point of view or whatever. But did you want me to talk about my Bubba's last relapse?
Yeah, you could talk about this is your time.
So
I'm interested in you.
5 months ago, we were rocking and rolling, living our life, working, and Bubba was really set on helping others as well. He like helps the men in our community and like he's really open to it. Well, one of the guys he was helping was slowly slipping and hanging out with the wrong crowd. And Bubba was trying to like save him in a way and ended up falling in that too, in the using and hiding it. And it was only a week that I had a feeling something was off, but I was like almost in denial about it. And I'm going to this Christ-based recovery program, Recovery Alive, called Recovery Alive. It's amazing. I'm obsessed. But I was finally starting my steps and I was on step 4 where you like, instead of naming every single person that hurt you, you focus on one or that one person. And then through that process, the people will start branching off that you want to work on, or resentments or whatever, hurts, hang-ups, whatever. And I was scheduled to go to the meeting and he never showed up to come home from work to watch the kids so I could go. And I called the coroner, jails, hospitals. He's missing. So I had no other choice but to say, hey, Facebook, have you seen my husband? And then, of course, like if I were to go missing because of my past, people would assume I relapsed. Like that's just part of who we are. It's good. If I went missing, people would probably think I relapsed. So, of course, that was what everyone thought. And comes to find out it was. And he admitted it and he was going to try better the next day. And I kept him home for a week. He was detoxing.
You've been through this with him before. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to get back to you could tell now. I'm
like the difference between the two times?
No, not what the difference is. I do want to know that, but I want to know what is in your mind now saying I'm going to take this guy back? Because we talked about it before in the pre-interview, and I said you can understand though if somebody's out there right now, you took him back, and we're going to get into that in a minute. You took him back, but you can also understand the other side of it when people are done. I want to know why your decision was to take him back.
So being in this faith-based recovery group that I've been going to definitely softened my heart a lot. So that's what was different too. But I also looked at it at the clinical aspect of it too. And someone told me it's like a brain tumor. If someone does something off the wall because of their brain tumor, are you going to like judge them? No, they have a brain tumor. They're sick. So it made me think, because there was one point a few months ago, I was chasing him down the street and the kids were screaming in the background and he's clenching onto it in his pocket and I'm trying to rip it. And I'm just like, I'm angry and I'm screaming at him. And then the next day, like I talked to someone who works in the drug and alcohol programs here, and she's given me the clinical version of it. And she told me the brain tumor thing. And it made me really think, like, this man that I've been married to will cry if his son falls down and hurts his knee. Like, he will break down and cry. There's no way that man is going to leave us for drugs. Like, there's no way. So something clicked and he's sick. He's sick. And then I applied harm reduction. Right before we finally got him to a moment of clarity where he decided, okay, I'm going to detox, because I had to make him leave the home, but he was living outside for a week. He was migrating around the house and wandering the street. He was lost, because what's evolved on this street right now makes them confused and they can't think straight and they're just wandering, and it's like a zombie, and it was so weird. But an old friend of his from rehab years ago came down here and helped pick him up to take him to detox, because I couldn't. I have 2 small kids. There's only so much I could do, and I had to protect them. And Child Protective Services got involved, and it was just, I had to call the cops on him, and they didn't arrest him. And then I had to call the cops again on him, and then he got arrested. It was crazy. But I met him with compassion this time. I was angry. I was angry, but like the last moments of before he went to detox, like he was determined to use again. And I could not stop him, but I could provide a safe environment for him. Like people might judge me for this, but like I sat around the corner. I didn't watch him do it, but like I kept an eye on him with Narcan right there, just in case, right before he left, because he was not going to go unless he had used the rest that was in his pocket. And that's harm reduction right there.
We talked about this a little bit before too. A lot of people judge no matter what. You could say right, wrong, indifferent, but it's hard to understand what to do until you're actually in that situation. And if you've been in that situation, I'm not saying what you did is right. I'm not saying what you did is wrong. I'm not in that situation. I haven't been in that situation.
If I didn't do that, he would have went. I probably would have never seen him again. I'm
Yeah,
telling you the
I'm
truth.
not. What I'm trying to say is that people judge if they want to judge. That's on them. But
Yeah.
you have to do what you feel is right at the time, and so I understand. So go ahead.
So he went to detox and they found every single thing in his system and he had no idea. He thought he was doing that like one thing and it lit up like a Christmas tree. It's just so eye-opening. So he stayed there a week and the plan was for him to go to treatment and he was set on, no, I'm coming home and I'm gonna, because in detox he tried to get off the methadone there, but that's a beast on its own. I mean, that's crazy too. So they got him to a manageable point and connected him with the clinic here. And he has a plan to come off of it, but it's what's working for him right now. And, we have a super open line of communication and like every once in a while I'll pop a drug test on him just to like give me a peace of mind. He's open and honest. And what's different this time is he surrendered to God and everything. He surrendered. You have to apply the surrender. Surrender's a lifestyle. It's not just, okay, thank you, God, and that's it. You got to keep it like your recovery. You got to keep on your recovery every day. And I truly believe he was leaning on my recovery too much and I might have been forcing it on him because I'm in your face with it. And maybe it got missed and I just was rocking and rolling in my thing and but he's about at 4 months of sobriety and he is doing the thing and that's all we can hope for. That, I mean, his story is helping people and he's an active member in the community. He's doing recovery stuff with me, outreach stuff, and he's been supporting me on my new journey in this faith-based
So
program. And
that is that's amazing. I'm happy to hear he's doing well. You are an inspiration. What I like to do before I wrap up is I like to ask people if I'm listening to this podcast right now and I'm already this far in and I'm struggling with addiction and I've tried before, maybe I've gone to rehab and it didn't work. I didn't feel it work and I just don't know what to do. What advice would you give somebody right now?
well, first off, all these 12-step programs, whatever in your area, any kind of recovery, I can promise you 99% of the time, they are going to meet you with some compassion and grace. Like they understand what you're going through and you're not alone. It's scary to make that leap and to admit it. And I mean, there is a stigma with some churches, and I'm wearing the shirt, a church revolution, because, there is like the perfect church, the perfect sermon, the perfect clothes you wear to church. But like, we're not perfect. We all are hurting. We all need healing. And there is a solution. It's not the same for everyone, but there are answers, and don't do it alone. There's
There is
somebody out there having a partner, an accountability partner or a peer or somebody. You're not alone.
we're going to leave. I said it earlier too. We're going to leave resources inside the posts when we make posts, just to be able to help people. And so, in closing, Is there anything else you'd like to add that maybe I missed? Because I think you're amazing, by the way. I'm a big fan.
I just really want to talk about recovery love.
Go ahead.
Like it's a newer program out there, and they're making their way. They're in 80 cities right now. It's kind of like a Celebrate Recovery mixed with the Blue Book.
Okay.
But this is the book, and I'm just amazed to add Jesus Christ is the answer. Is the answer to addiction. I truly believe that, and it took me a really long time to get there to realize it, but the miracles happening in my life right now, you can't make this up. It's not a coincidence. And I just went to their convention this weekend and had the most spiritual awakening moment of my life, and I'm excited to see where it takes me, and I hope it makes an impact on other people. And I'll be at a town meeting next week talking about it, because I
All
think
right.
everyone needs to know.
We're going to have a link in there. One path to recovery. There's many, as we said earlier. There's many paths. I think that we're going to wrap up here. So hang on, and we will. I really appreciate you coming in.
I really enjoyed this.
Inspiring stories of recovery. Please share the love and get us some social media following. And with that, have a great day, Krista, and we will talk.
Thank you so much. We do recover.